Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's had a great weekend. Welcome to Music with Mike. This is my third episode doing this on Monday morning here at Orchard Park. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I sure did. Yesterday being Palm Sunday, got to take part in what was really a fantastic Palm Sunday processional, probably one of the most meaningful and memorable Palm Sunday processionals that I've ever been part of, and I hope you had a chance to do that and be there with us. I'm going to do something a little bit different today, and I think I say that every time we're together, but today is no exception. I'm going to be live with you here for about maybe 10 minutes or so. And if anybody else comes on board and wants to offer some comments or do a little bit of interaction, I would really encourage that. Hi, Mary Giesel. Good to see you, or at least your icon out there. Hope you're doing well. And anyway, and getting back to yesterday, I just had such a wonderful time being in that processional. I think for those of us who were planning that procession, we really didn't expect nearly that many people to show up, and it was just incredible to see all the cars and everybody getting their palms ready. And I got to say, as we pulled out onto the road and we started heading down the different streets, I was really touched by seeing the people driving by us with their cell phones, and I don't advocate this, by the way. It was definitely fun, wasn't it, Mary? With their phones, taking video of us as they were passing us by. Excuse me. As they were passing us by, and went by some runners who waved, and I got to see Rob Peterson on his corner waving enthusiastically. That was really cool. But it was just such a great event, and I really felt it, and it just was really something else. So I hope you had a chance to do it. Maybe it's something that we might do again. Who knows? But it was really cool. If you didn't get to be part of that procession yesterday, I'm sure we're going to see some pictures and video later on today. If not, maybe tomorrow, who knows. But I know there are pictures and there's video coming, so it was really, really cool. And thanks to everybody that was part of planning all that. It was a really, really neat event. So anyway, I hope that you guys have had a good weekend. If you want to type up a comment about something that you did this weekend that was particularly fun, feel free to do so. I'd like to hear from you here. Well, one of the things I did, your dogs enjoyed it. Mary Giesel's dogs enjoyed it. That's cool. I didn't realize your dogs were in your car. Oh, that's right. Actually, my wife had our dog in the car too, with Trixie, with my daughter Hala. And they had fun. We were in separate vehicles because we had to go different directions when the parade was over, but that was really cool. One of the things I did that was fun, as you may have noticed, I'm sporting what I'm going to call the COVID cut. This particular haircut here, I think I'm gonna count it as my own creation. Well, I'll give my wife credit too. This is what you have when you need a haircut, and you order some haircutting shears, and you guide your wife into cutting your hair just as the barber does, going from the bottom up with the shears, and then you both get to right about this level, and you realize you don't really know quite what to do, so you try to blend it in, and the more you do it, the worse it gets. So at that point, you just take a whole bunch of hair gel, rub it in your hands, rub it through your head, and you call it good. Again, the COVID cut. Maybe it'll go viral, who knows? Actually, that term has a whole different meaning, doesn't it, nowadays? So maybe we're going to come up with something new. Anyway, so that's what I did. I got a haircut this weekend, and I got to go on a really awesome parade. Now, I'm not supposed to be sitting here talking about my hair. I'm supposed to be here talking about music. So today I have a special guest, and he was going to. I couldn't quite figure out how to get two of us live at the same time, kind of like a split screen where I would be here and my guest would be here, and I think it just requires way more technology than I have at my disposal. Just looking at my time because I don't want to keep you guys forever. I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. So my guest today is going to be pre-recorded, and as soon as I'm finished with this live feed, I'm going to stop the live feed and I'm going to hit a post button, and a post is going to come up with part 2 of this segment, and so you may have to refresh the page. I'm not quite sure. But so you might have to go out of Facebook and come back in, I don't know, but part 2 of Music with Mike should show up in a separate post. And I have a little quiz for you all of you who are out there watching in Face World. About 2 weeks ago, I was giving a demonstration about the pipe organ. And during that demonstration, I compared organists to another musician, another type of musician. Does anybody remember what that was? I'll give you a second to think about that. Organists and what other musicians? What do we do? What do we have in common? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Anyone? Anyone? All right. Well, anyway, so a couple of weeks ago I said that organists and drummers have a lot in common because organists and drummers are the only two musicians that play with all 4 limbs, both our hands and both of our feet. And so what I thought would be really cool, because I have a real affection for drums, which you'll find out a little bit more about in the second segment of this episode. What I thought would be cool would be to have the drummer from our worship band, Colin Oakley, share some of his background and his story on how he became a drummer, and give a little demonstration on what it's like to have to play with independence in 4 limbs and that special skill that it requires. So it was really, there we go. I knew there was another one. Mary Giesel reminds me, harpists also use their hands and feet too. Actually, very, very good. That's right. There are pedals that have to be pressed on the harp. And I guess we're going to go that far. We can also go with pianists too. Pianists have to manipulate the pedals to make the piano sustain and so forth too. But between drummers and organists, I mean, organists we have to play separate notes with all of our limbs. Not to say that any one is better than the other. And drummers have to do a little bit more, have a lot of independence as well. But yeah, definitely harpists very, very, very skilled as well with all 4 limbs. So thank you for that. That's a great answer. So getting back to my guest, Colin Oakley is going to be on a segment that's pre-recorded, and I thank him for putting together a little video for you guys to watch. You'll find out a little bit about Colin's background, and he'll give a demonstration on a couple of different drum patterns that comes toward the end of his video. And so that's really about all I have for you at this point live. Like I said, I'm going to sign off here in just a second, and as soon as I do, I'm going to press post, and I'm going to post a recording of me introducing Colin, and I hope you enjoy the rest of that segment. Also, check back later on today. I will have the Orchard Park Music Ministry sampler number 3. That'll be coming out later this afternoon or early evening, and we'll have some special music on that sampler as well. So thank you for popping in here this morning. I really appreciate it. And like I said, look for that post. It'll be coming in just about 5 seconds. Take care. Okay, so as I said in my live segment, today I have a guest musician with me. His name is Colin Oakley. Colin is the drummer here at Orchard Park for our worship band, and he's a phenomenal musician. I met him probably, it would have been almost 10 years ago when I invited him to come and play at one of our Black History celebrations. And over the years, off and on, I would invite him to come back and play for certain services. And then about 2 years ago, Colin started playing regularly every week with our worship band. And I have a particular fondness for what he does because my father is a drummer. And I've always admired drummers. I'm a wannabe drummer. I am not a drummer, but for drums and percussion, I've always really been attracted to what they do. And I think, again, it's because, as I mentioned a few weeks ago in the segment where I demonstrated the pipe organ here in the church, organists and drummers are some of the only musicians on the planet that play with all four limbs going at the same time. And Colin's going to demonstrate some of that toward the end of his video. But I have a real fondness for what he does because my father was a drummer, and my dad and my uncle, some of my earliest musical memories were watching them play the polka circuit on the south side of Chicago, and they had a bit of a following. They put out a couple of records, and they did gigs on the weekends as a side job, and I always remember wanting to play my dad's drums, but him not wanting me to, because if in the south side of Chicago, the houses are so close together that if you stood between them and put your arms out like this, you can touch your house and your neighbor's house because they were that close. So not much of a sound buffer there. So my dad didn't want us doing too much drumming in the house to disturb the neighbors. But anyway, I do have memories of him. I'm not sure exactly what age I was, but he would put me on the drumming on the stool where I'm sitting right now, and I would basically work the bass drum with my right foot. By this time, I was already playing the organ, so I could at least do one thing with my right foot. I could play the snare, and I can get probably one, maybe another cymbal going, and I was able to keep somewhat of a beat. Okay. Now, since I couldn't do all four things, my dad would stand on my left side and he would work the hi-hat over here with his foot, and they would allow me to play with my uncle and the band when they were doing a couple polkas, and I just remember that being a real special time. Anyway, more about Colin. Colin is a phenomenal musician. I really enjoy working with him. I enjoy listening to him play. He's a very musical drummer, and what I mean by that is he doesn't just sit here and keep a beat going. He doesn't just play one pattern throughout a song. He reacts to things that go on within the song. He might add things to the melody that the singer's singing. He causes the build-up to happen when a song reaches a climax, and he also causes the song to relax a little bit, depending on what he's doing, what pattern he's playing. Later on today, the music sampler that I put out is going to feature a couple of songs by the band, two of my favorite songs that our band does. And on the first one, I want you to really pay particular attention to Colin's drumming, what's going on underneath everything else that's happening, and just listen to how he creates atmosphere with the drums. It's really absolutely phenomenal. So I hope you enjoy that song later on today. So without further ado, I'm going to let Colin take over here, and he's going to tell you about his upbringing as a drummer. And later on in the video, he's going to demonstrate a few different basic patterns on the drums. And again, I'm kind of comparing what I as an organist do to what Colin does as a drummer in trying to have independence with all our four limbs while we're trying to make music. So I do hope you enjoy this segment. Colin is such a neat guy, and again, just a great musician to work with, and I really thank him for doing this video, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey, what is up, y'all? How's it going? Orchard Park Presbyterian, happy to be with you today. Even if it is digitally, certainly miss the ritual of seeing everyone's smiling faces and greeting everyone every Sunday morning, but happy to be communing one way or the other. Coming to you today from Healer, which is a music venue that I run. It has a dual purpose of being a music venue. Obviously, I'm on the stage right now, my drum set up. It's also an immersive art gallery, if you will, experience, portal to another dimension, if you will. That's probably closer to the proper description of the place. It's currently empty, except for me, which is a really bizarre experience because I'm used to this being a place of community and gathering. But again, just doing a lot of reflecting and enjoying the community that we do have. Was talking to Mike the other day and thought it would be a good idea to just introduce myself, talk about my experience growing up as a drummer, and kind of becoming the musician that I am today, and kind of highlighting some of the influences and experiences I've been through with that. As well as kind of demonstrate some drums too. I wanted to show a few beats and patterns that you may have heard that are fairly common, that exemplify kind of the coordination it takes to be a drummer. Kind of in the same way that Mike, as an organist, has to utilize all four limbs. Drummers very much go through the same process. So kind of reflecting back on my life as a musician, really salient in my memories are getting together with my uncle, who was a drummer when I was a young child, maybe like 2 or 3 years old, and he would always bust out the pots and pans in the kitchen. So he'd always play and bang on the pots and pans and make noise. And that's really one of the very earliest introductions I had to percussion in music in general. Really, that ignited a lot of dreams and passions of mine. I remember being a young kid, running around the neighborhood, kind of imagining what it would be like to be a drummer on stage in front of people, and kind of the joy of that kind of sacred interaction between people witnessing and people creating, and kind of the fusion that takes place, which is really where the art happens, is between subject and object. So that was a really early memory of mine. That Thing You Do, if you haven't seen that movie, it's a really good movie, with Tom Hanks, centers around a drummer who joins basically this pop band that becomes famous. But he was a jazz drummer, and I remember being kind of precocious, really, in retrospect, like listening to jazz at a very young age, but became very foundational to me. So got my first drum set when I was in, I think, 4th or 5th grade. Started taking lessons at a local music shop. It was a very typical trajectory of how a kid would be introduced to music. So reading sheet music, I played along to a lot of U2 for whatever reason. That was, that was the band that I liked at the time. Weezer, I played along to a lot of Weezer, and just kind of learned all the basic rock patterns, learned how to read music, which turned out to be very formative and something that I've relied upon since then. I played in the 5th grade talent show. I played along to Lenny Kravitz's version of American Woman. Still might have been one of the coolest things I've ever done. I felt like a rock star. I felt like I was the king of Westwood Elementary in Greenwood. But I remember being one of my very first, actually probably my first musical performance really on the drums. Did a couple talent shows throughout middle school, not nearly as glorious as 5th grade. Once high school came around, very involved in marching band at Greenwood High School. We did win 2 Class B championships, so we did a pretty decent job. Which there's still like something so powerful about the idea of a group of like 15 to 20 people that are all playing highly technical, very proficient when it comes to like technique and when it comes to complexity, and everybody playing in such extreme unison. There's so much power and majesty in that, especially if you could see it live. If not, look it up on YouTube. Look up like DCI drumline clips. Just to kind of experience the grandeur of intense complexity that's taken to like the artistic degree, the highest artistic degree possible. So I did that, was really into marching band. It was a lot of course, my parents were gracious to listen to. And honestly, my parents were highly influential in like facilitating my growth and development as a drummer. So thank you, Mom and Dad. I love you both. You're beautiful people, great parents. Because they put up with that sound for decades, really. So I did that. At a certain point, I felt like I had kind of sucked the marrow out of marching band, or sucked all the marrow out of marching band. Got a little bit jaded, because it's very regimented. It's a very particular art form. So I really got back into drum set at that point, and really dedicated myself towards jazz. That's really what I ended up doing. Joined the jazz band, with hopes of just kind of diversifying my musical repertoire and what I was capable of doing. Once I got to college, I studied sociology. I went to DePaul University in Greencastle. Was not in the music school, but I ended up just playing a lot of music. I was in the jazz band, in the jazz combo. There was a local bar called the Duck, Fluttering Duck, to be formal, that would have jazz jam night. So I would go there every Thursday. I would sit in and play with musicians I hadn't played with before, and just gained a lot of invaluable experience of just sitting in, being, okay, what song are we playing? I don't know that song. How does it go? Okay, it's swing, cool. And then just kind of going and seeing where things go, and kind of like dipping into the ether and like the alchemical pool to see what comes out on the other side. So that's something I've relied upon a lot. But playing in all those various combinations of groups is really influential. Playing in a big band versus playing in a small group in a combo, something you would normally see. I actually started playing in Orchard Park when I was in college too. I played for, I can't remember what the gathering was, but Lenny Foy, who was a trumpet professor at DePaul, I think Mike contacted him to put together like a small jazz combo. So I played there on drums, and then ever since then, Mike would just call me every couple times a year to play at select services. And then I think maybe at this point it might have been 2 years ago when I started playing full time. So again, all throughout that, I was playing with various rock bands. I played in a band with Joshua Powell and Adam, who were both in the worship band. Played with them for several years. Played in a band called Teo. Played in a band called Radar Gold, of varying different styles. All the while running Healer, which has been such a beautiful and gratifying experience of being a place that engenders art and engenders the experience with art, and having it be in a way that's visceral. So that's me. That's where I am. So the first beat I wanted to show you is the most basic rock beat that you've heard a million times. What's cool about this beat is it's foundational, it's rudimentary, but it can also get you a lot of different places. Depending on how you tweak various things, if you play some things louder, play some things softer, you get a lot out of it. So the basic elements, we have our bass drum, which I'm going to play with my right foot. My snare drum, I'll play with my left hand. And then my hi-hat, I'll play with my right hand. Those are the three elements. So the core of this, what undergirds this whole beat, is this conversation that happens between the bass drum and the snare drum. They're going back and forth. So it sounds like this. We have bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare. So we have that. That continues this whole time. Next layer we're going to add to this, it's like we're baking a cake. That's the cake part. This is the icing part, the hi-hat. So we're going to keep bass drum and snare drum the same. We're going to overlay the hi-hat on top of it. So the hi-hat rhythm is just going to be really consistent, really steady. So we have that. We'll put it all together. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So I started introducing some different rhythms on the bass drum, which is kind of the next step you would take. So you would start playing around with those rhythms, keeping my right hand and left hand the same. So we'll play a little faster. Switch it up a little bit there too. But that's the idea, is you start with this very fundamental idea, and then you start adding complexity on top of that. And so the whole idea is you have different voices interacting that all come together to form like one conversation. So that's your basic rock beat. The next beat that I wanted to show you, it's something that I've been investigating since I've had extra time. It's kind of going back to some Latin ideas and Latin patterns, which truly are the most integrative types of beats. They require a lot of independence, and they require a lot of syncopation. So independence is kind of the idea that all of your limbs are doing different things. You saw that with the first beat. Latin music takes that up to the next level. Syncopation is basically the idea that we have broken rhythms. So they might be more staggered rather than consistent and steady. would be a way to describe it. So what I want to show you is the bossa nova beat. This is a beat in Brazilian music. You've probably heard this beat in elevators because unfortunately Brazilian music has been watered down to elevator music. It is one of my favorite genres of world music. It's always blissful, sonorous, peaceful, just exceedingly mellow. But it shows a lot of cool independence and a lot of cool interactions. So the first layer happens between our right foot on the bass drum, this one, in case you forgot, and our left foot closing the hi-hat like that. So what we have is an ostinato, which basically means this pattern just continues to repeat. So what we have is this, we have boom, 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 so that's our first layer. I lost something over here. Second layer is going to happen between our right hand, which is usually played on the ride, which is this symbol, and our snare using a cross stick, which is basically, I don't know if you probably can't see it from this angle, but we're going to get this sound. We're going to hit the stick across the circumference, the rim of the drum, to get that more sharp, crisp, percussive sound. So this is the pattern that my left hand will be doing on the snare drum. If this is my tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So that's my left hand. On top of everything, we have the right hand, similar to the rock beat actually, just playing this really steady. Really steady that. So the hands together will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the idea. So we're going to put it all together. It'll sound like this. 1, 2, ready, and. Basic idea. Then you get to a point where you can start adding some different flourishes, some embellishes. Right, so it kind of changed up this rhythm, added some of those ideas, some more syncopated ideas on the ride. That was not a very good take of the bossa nova, but you get the idea. Play a little bit more. So that's the bossa nova beat in a nutshell. So again, if you're interested, actually, if you need some music suggestions, João Gilberto, Antonio Carlos Jobim are kind of the two premier Brazilian musicians. I probably butchered those names. But Girl from Ipanema, you probably heard that song. Jazz standard. Again, just a really good example of what the bossa nova music would feel like. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. Yeah, again, just trying to redeem this time with something valuable. Again, hope to see you all soon, and I hope you're well.